Good afternoon. It's Monday, December 14. I'm Giovanni Dennis with the Midday News. Special welcome if you're watching online at onespotmedia.com. National Security Minister Dr. Horace Chang and the Police Federation say the U.S. State Department's sanctions against former members of the now disbanded Crime Management Unit raises questions about how the United States views Jamaica's justice system. It's believed that the sanctions are linked to the controversial killing of 4 persons in Clarendon in 2003, for which the former CMU members were acquitted. O'Shane Masters reports.
A police operation in the community of Clarendon, Clarendon on May 7, 2003, which left 4 persons dead and many families hurting, even 2 decades after the ordeal. Although the team was acquitted in 2005, the repercussions are still being felt. Last week, the U.S. State Department announced the public designation of Devon Orlando Bernard, Renita de Cordova Adams, Patrick Anthony Koch, Shane St. Aubin Lyons, Lee Ford Gordon, and Roderick Anthony Collier. Their immediate family members are also covered by the designation. Individuals and their immediate family members who are designated publicly or privately are ineligible for entry into the United States. National Security Minister Dr. Horace Chang says the designation coming after the local court's dismissal of the case shows a lack of trust in the island's judicial system by the United States.
It's a U.S. decision to do what they wish to do. Of course, it's a real issue. How do they look at our justice system? The men went through it and were acquitted. But the decision whether to accept an individual in the country or not is still up to the sovereign state. I have an obligation to accept Jamaicans when they are sent to me, no obligation to accept any non-national. And it's the same thing in the United States. So we have to accept the judgment, even if we have doubts about why they do it, or not so much doubts, but we question why after trial they'll do it this long after.
For Chairman of the Police Federation, Corporal Rowan James, the matter is worrisome. As for those officers who are still serving the JCF, Corporal James says a dialogue will have to be had to decide what will happen to those members.
My committee and I will ensure that we seek to get an update as to what it is that High Command will do, if anything, in respect of these members. As also, we will definitely be calling upon the minister, because we are going to be following and dotting our I's and crossing our T's as it relates to this matter.
Attorney at law Bert Samuels believes that despite information being shared, the decision of a jury should stand.
I don't see how that designation from wherever can stand in the face of an acquittal by a jury, and that's the problem I'm having. So I'm not sure whether those other countries firstly put the designation on and cause families to be affected, and secondly, whether it is pursuant to an acquittal that persons are so designated. That would be interesting to see whether the other classifications, the other countries who make that similar classification, do it where persons are in fact acquitted.
Now, the Police Federation chairman says his organization will stop at nothing to get its members' names cleared. Corporal James and Mr. Samuels were speaking on Power 106 FM's Morning Agenda on Monday. O'Shane Masters, TVJ News.
Police in Clarendon say they are making progress in the recent brutal murder of a returning resident in the parish. They are, however, seeking residents' help in finding a man they feel can help in their investigations. Investigators have also listed 7 men they want in connection with recent criminal incidents in the parish. Details in this report.
Head of Operations for the Clarendon Police Division, Superintendent Christopher Phillips, says the recent attacks against 2 senior citizens in the parish have created anxiety among residents. In one of the cases, Ansel Lynch, a 72-year-old returning resident, was murdered in Chapperton. Investigators say they have made some progress in the case, but are seeking the public's help.
So far, we have recorded some statements, and from those statements, we have garnered some useful information. To assist us further, we are seeking to find one 10-year Akeem Mackenzie, 22 years old, unemployed, of Crooked River and Longville Park, Clarendon.
In the meantime, 2 teenagers have been listed among 7 men wanted by the Clarendon Police. Romaine Murray and Delroy Burkett, both 18, are wanted in connection with wounding with intent and a murder, respectively. Murray, also known as John Tom, is said to frequent the Comfort District, while Burkett is from the increasingly tense Hayesfield District. The other men are Steve Francis, Shemar Miller, otherwise called Tesha, Anif Broomfield, also known as Chang, Daniel Codling, and Fitzroy Kaur, otherwise called OJ. Residents are being asked to contact the police if they know the whereabouts of the men.
As your servant leaders within the parish, as your police leaders, we value your trust and confidence, and we will be safeguarding it. I want to invite you to come to us and tell us what you know that can assist us with some of these incidents we've had.
Shane Masters, TVJ News.
The St. Dacre to Brownstown Main Road in St. Anne is now blocked with boulders and debris, some of which have been set on fire. Residents of St. Dacre are protesting yesterday's fatal shooting of a resident by a policeman. Now the dead man has been identified as 43-year-old Glester White. Mr. White was a farmer from Alexandria in the parish. Now, according to reports, the incident started after some community members got into an argument over water. Deputy Superintendent Kevin Chambers from the St. Anne Police says one of the residents got irate, and that's when a member of the JCF who resides in the community got involved and force was used.
Sometime after, residents became irate and burned down the house of the family member, and also a motor car, and burned and set a motor car belonging to the member of the JCF on fire.
Indicom is investigating. DSP Chambers says members of his team continue to do interventions to ensure no further escalation.
The police will maintain the presence. The police should can reassure that investigation will be done, and with our presence, there's not likely to be any further escalation to this incident.
And it's now time for a break here on the Midday News, but please stay with us. We'll have more when we return. Welcome back, and we're continuing the news. National Security Minister Dr. Horace Chang is reporting that the Live Good and Get the Guns campaign has been yielding positive results. The campaign, which is in its first phase, provides monetary rewards for information leading to the seizure of illegal firearms.
This is phase one because while we're reminding people of the price you can get for a gun from Crime Stop, also trying to sensitize the whole society that guns is a serious crime, it's a major problem for the society, because much of the killing of the crime takes place now in the city communities or informal settlements. And there's a large body of Jamaicans which it doesn't reach them. So look, it happened out there.
Right.
Because somebody from the ground, they're not involved. And there's almost a desensitization right now.
The second phase of the initiative, according to Dr. Chang, will see a new Firearms License Act. The act is expected to provide stiffer penalties for persons caught with illegal guns.
We're in the process of bringing a new Firearms Act, which will seek to increase the consequences of having illegal firearms. And the next bill, which will just warn the wider community that, look, illegal firearms will carry a severe penalty once you get caught with it.
To the latest news on coronavirus now, Jamaica recorded 82 new cases of COVID-19 in the last 24 hours. The country's tally is now 11,792. Majority of the cases were in Kingston and St. Andrew, followed by St. Catherine. The death toll remains at 273. There are signs that the government might not resort to additional COVID-19 restrictions in Westmoreland ahead of the Christmas holidays. This despite a spike in cases of the respiratory illness in the parish. Last week, Health Minister Dr. Christopher Tufton said the authorities would monitor developments to determine whether a clampdown should be imposed. Dr. Tufton met with the Negril Chamber of Commerce and Industry as well as the Negril Chamber of chapter of the Jamaica Hotel and Tourist Association on Sunday. President of the chamber, Richard Wallace, says the health minister signaled he would go the route of community intervention instead of tighter restrictions to reduce the rate of infection. There have been more than 100 COVID-19 cases and 10 deaths in Westmoreland over the last 2 weeks. Consultant neurosurgeon Dr. Roger Hunter, who has given the Ministry of Health a failing grade for its handling of the COVID-19 pandemic, is now arguing that the number of vaccine doses being bought is not needed. Under the initial rollout next year, 15% of the Jamaican population will be vaccinated. Jamaica is seeking to access Moderna's COVID-19 vaccine. Dr. Hunter says those people who contracted the virus should not be vaccinated. Speaking on TVJ's Smile Jamaica this morning, Dr. Hunter said the true number of positive cases will first have to be determined.
Because all those who have had coronavirus and not become sick from it, which is the majority, do not need a vaccine. We do not need to be planning on vaccinating someone who already had the coronavirus. Now, if, according to the ministry projections, that hundreds of thousands of Jamaicans have already got coronavirus, why are we buying hundreds of thousands of vaccines? These have real implications for policy and for the public purse.
A critical care nurse of Jamaican heritage was the first person in New York and among the first set of people in the United States to get a shot of the coronavirus vaccine authorized by the U.S. Food and Drug Administration. Sandra Lindsay, an ICU nurse at the Long Island Jewish Medical Center in Queens, was administered the vaccine during a live video event on Monday. Ms. Lindsay spoke about receiving the vaccine with the Governor of New York, Andrew Cuomo.
And you're feeling well?
Governor Cuomo, I'm feeling well. I would like to thank all the frontline workers, all my colleagues who've been doing a yeoman's job to fight this pandemic all over the world. I am hopeful. I feel hopeful today, relieved. I feel like healing is coming. I hope this marks the beginning to the end of a very painful time in our history. I want to instill public confidence that the vaccine is safe. We're in a pandemic, and so we all need to do our part to put an end to the pandemic.
Back home, Tourism Minister Ed Bartlett says a regional and global multi-stakeholder policy is key to ensuring the Caribbean's full recovery from the impact of COVID-19. Mr. Bartlett said COVID-19 has not only wreaked havoc on Caribbean economies, but has also changed tourism forever. It's why Mr. Bartlett believes a collaborative approach at this time is urgent. Against this background, the minister said countries can no longer operate in isolation.
In relation to entry into the region, there was need, I think, for a single passport and visa regime that allows for visitors, international visitors who come into any one of our islands to operate on a domestic basis, moving through the rest of the region.
Now, despite CARICOM's failure to encourage travel and economic growth in parts of the region, Mr. Bartlett remains optimistic that Caribbean countries will buy into the new approach.
Sometimes the economic call is a stronger call, sometimes even than the political call. And I think that recognizing that tourism is the centerpiece of the recovery strategy for the region, we will have to look at what are those elements that must come together in order for us to achieve this level of recovery and within a quick period.
Justice Minister Delroy Chuck is calling on more justices of the peace to be involved in their community development. Speaking at a swearing-in ceremony of justices of the peace in St. Thomas recently, Mr. Chuck said some JPs go into hiding after they are sworn in, noting their presence could assist with crime fighting.
We allow some thugs, some idiot boys to damage the goodwill and the image. And this is where justice of the peace, I'm asking you to put your foot down. Make sure that you come forward and work with the superintendent, work with one another to make your parish and Jamaica the place not only to be born, but to live, to work, do business, but to retire. And when the good Lord is ready, take you.
Mr. Chuck admits there are some JPs that do not offer their services willingly, so the aim, he says, is to have at least 500 JPs in each parish so there are more available to assist.
We have less than 10,000 justice of the peace. Left up to me, and I'm trying to get the custodies to build up that every parish should have at least 500 JPs. Custos tells me that with this 50 plus JPs, we're close to 300. I'm going to beg some of you, if you see people of quality like yourself, recommend that they apply.
In news overseas, Google applications including YouTube, Gmail and Docs today suffered a rare service outage with users unable to access many of the company's services. The outage started shortly before noon UK time, lasting more than 30 minutes before services were restored. Users around the world reported problems with Gmail, Google Drive, the Android Play Store, Maps and more. Google's search engine, however, remained unaffected by the problems affecting its other services. Now, the brief outage had a significant impact on the company's millions of users, many of whom rely on Google services for basic work apps such as email and calendars.